Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of the Blackbird Grimoire. Welcome to the daily forecast for Sunday, October 13th, 2024. It is the 22nd of Libra and the day of the mummy. In our astrology, we have the sun in Libra, cardinal air, representing justice. The moon is second quarter Aquarius, fixed air, representing rebellion. At 9:11 a.m. Central Time, the moon goes void of course, and then at 2:55 p.m. Central Time, it moves into second quarter Pisces, mutable water, representing intuition. Mercury is in Libra, cardinal air, representing the visionary. Venus is in Scorpio, fixed water, representing passion. Mars is in Cancer, cardinal water, which is seeking security. Jupiter is retrograding in Gemini, mutable air, which is broadening perspectives. Saturn is retrograding in Pisces, mutable water, which is to redefine dreams. Uranus is retrograding in Taurus, fixed earth, representing rebellion. Neptune is retrograding in Pisces, mutable water, which is spiritual awakenings. And Pluto is in Capricorn, cardinal earth, which is about reconstruction. For our retrograde reminders, for Jupiter, it's reconnect with your true path. For Saturn, reclaim your authority. For Uranus, reconsider how you rebel. For Neptune, reclaim your magic. And for Chiron, restore the heroic spirit. Our moon phase is a waxing gibbous, which means it's time for us to commit to goals. We have a Pisces moon, so our do's are compassion, meditation, and charity, and our don'ts are unwise alliances, excessive communal activities, and one-dimensionality. On this day of the sun, we have the combination of the Libran sun and the Piscean moon, and that tempers the pursuit of justice with mercy and reasonableness, because human beings are not machines, and we act neither rightly nor wrongly on facts and logic alone. We are emotional and intuitive creatures as well, and true justice reflects the full spectrum of our being, which includes reason, emotion, and intuition. Our tarot card for the day is the Queen of Pumpkins. The Queen represents the matriarch. The suit of pumpkins is the rational feminine, receptive energy, earth element, and material action. And the key words for the card are connected to nature, creative and generous woman, and fertility. So it's all of that good earth energy that is wanting to be productive, it's wanting to nurture things, it's wanting things to grow. Now, in order to have a soil from which things can grow, we have to have first taken care of the soil. So if we're looking at this and we're thinking, well, I'm looking around at my life, and it's not just that we're end of the growing season in nature. It's just I'm not really seeing how I can, using my own figurative soil in my life, grow anything with it. I feel stuck. There's stagnation, or things are too rocky, or things are too emotional. So it's like that soggy soil that retains water. There's all sorts of things that we can be looking at and saying, my soil isn't really in order. So in order to get to this point that the Queen of Pumpkins represents, it means that we need to look into amending our soil, which means about changing perspectives, having an honest examination of our general mode of being, its strengths, but also its limitations, and recognizing that perhaps it's time to start shoring up some of those limitations. Perhaps there is more that is within our control. For instance, if we are over emotional and that's sogging down our soil, because emotion does have a way of preventing us from taking useful action, oftentimes, especially if we get to wallowing in it. Perhaps acknowledging about the nature of our emotions are and the reasons behind them, but then saying, but I'm not going to focus on that today. I'm going to think about more so about what I can do now in the present circumstances. I'm going to look at the options available to me. That is one way you can start to amend your figurative soil. Or if perhaps your soil is too rocky and everything's just stuck, then you might want to be letting a little bit more of emotion in, because what wears away rock? Water, particularly over a period of time. Now, it doesn't have to be a big flood. It can just be a trickle, something that just loosens and softens things to where you aren't quite so inflexible or perhaps intolerant or unwilling to look beyond your usual paradigm. That's another way you can amend the soil. So just try it out, see what you can do to where you can make use of the energy that the Queen of Pumpkins is representing. Because sometimes, the issue of why you can't grow and why you can't move forward, well, it has to do with what you have cultivated around yourself when it comes to your base materials. So attend to those base materials today. Next up, we have our Celtic triad. Three things it is best to be alone: a strange dog, a sudden flood, and one wise in their own eyes. This is all pretty self explanatory because a strange dog, it might be friendly, it might not, but it on its own, it's much more manageable than if you encountered an entire feral pack or a whole. A group of dogs that you just don't happen to know, you don't know their disposition, you don't know how they are with people. It's better when it's just off on its own. And then with floods, I mean, obviously, it is better you're in a better position if there's a sudden flood that recedes than if you have a series of floods or if you have an ongoing situation to where the flood water just isn't receding at all. Obviously, if you're going to have to deal with the nuisance, it's better if it is just on its own and if it is very short term. And then this business of being wise in their own eyes. People, well, I'll put it this way: an individual convinced of their own personal wisdom and that it's beyond all contestation, they can be pretty insufferable all on their own because they're never going to listen. They're never going to see another point of view. And it's important to tell the difference between someone who is doing this, who's just very dogmatic and rigid in their views, between someone who's saying, no, my reasons for my views are X, Y, and Z. What you have brought up, it doesn't overcome these objections. And so that's why I'm not taking more of your opinion on board. There's a difference between those because the one person is willing to engage with it, or if someone says, yeah, well, I've thought about this on a myriad of times, this is what I concluded about that. That's someone who has probably gone over the matter many, many times. That's different from someone who's just like, oh, I'm not taking it in at all. So it is important to tell the difference between the two. But imagine this one person who thinks they're just the epitome of all brilliance. And then you put them in a group of people who all share that mindset. That can become very, very dangerous. Academia is known to have a particular weakness for this. Politics, especially. I mean, if we have seldom had a bigger crop of meddlesome, know nothing busybodies in politics than what we are dealing with right now. They're convinced that they know, they're not just there to govern, they're not there to fulfill the duties of a particular office. No, no, in their heart of hearts, they want to rule, and they want to rule because they think they know better than you in all particular aspects of life. It is intolerable, and what's worse, it is dangerous. People talk about threats to our society. Well, it's people of that mindset who are the genuine threat to our society, and you will find them all over the spectrum. It isn't just one particular political school of thought that is solely guilty of this. Although I will say, the more you go to the left, which is the much more collectivistic realm of things, the more likely you are to encounter this kind of unwarranted arrogance. So there you go. Make it that what you will. Now, for today's magical correspondences, they are centered on the theme of protection. The color for this is gold, the plant is the witch hazel, the animal is the lion, and the crystal is citrine. Now, an aspect of protection is actually increasing your own strength and the versatility of your defenses so as to limit your vulnerabilities. You could have the best security system in the world for your house, but if you never lock your doors or close your doors, that security system is not going to do you any good. You have to actually attend to where you are vulnerable. So a lot of times this is doing some very simple things. For instance, if we are perhaps vulnerable to someone else's opinion because we are emotionally tied up with them or we are assigning their opinion too much importance. Perhaps it's someone who doesn't actually care about us and they're just being mean and hateful because that's how they've decided to go through life. Allowing ourselves to become emotionally wrapped up in what they think and why they think it, that is creating a vulnerability within our own makeup that really doesn't need to be there. If you take a minute to think, hey, this person doesn't care about me, isn't really interested in my long term well being or even my short term well being. So maybe, just maybe, what they say isn't something that I should be paying attention to. Once you get to that point, then it is a lot easier to filter things in a way that is going to be beneficial to you. And that's just one example. Now, for today's practices, perhaps you could find a sound chant or a prayer that you would like to use on the great day. Then, what do you observe as being mummy like in society? Bound, rigid, as though it's in this constantly fulfilling its own curse, that sort of thing. Then, how can you cultivate solar energy? How can the world benefit from solar wisdom? And Sundays are planning days, so plan your spiritual new year. We are weeks away. So if you want to have that sensation of a fresh new beginning, you've got to do your preparation now. The longer I walk in this path, the more I see the value of preparation, particularly if you're wanting to do something that is very personal and very specific to your own set of circumstances. You're not going to be able to throw something together last minute or use other people's words if you're really wanting to achieve that effect. So if you're wanting to have that fresh start come November 1st, you really need to do your planning now. And then I did find a Samhain chant for you, courtesy of Pinterest, of course. And if you can't see this or you can't grab this on a screenshot, don't worry. I did post it under the community tabs on my YouTube channel. See if I can read it. Sometimes, sometimes when I put these slides together, I think, oh yes, the size of the font, it's fine. I'll be able to see. And then, it comes time to recording, and I realize I'm in my 40s, and maybe it's not fine anymore. But let's do this. This chant reads, Open the moon in this Samhain night and let the gods bless us with their light. Dark crone, lovely one who descends into the valley only to rise anew. My beloved mother, let me not forget who I am, who I was, and who I will be then. May the spiritual wisdom come from the great tree I once left, for to it I will return when my time is done here in this realm. Blessed Father of the fiery skies, brighten my path through the Isle of the Dead, and allow my spirit to reach the summer lands, so that my soul can be nurtured by the voices of my past. In perfect love and in perfect sync, this plea I ask in this sacred Hallows Eve. Blessed be. Which, I like that. So I think it's very pretty. And I like the fact that it's involving both the god and the goddess. I'm becoming increasingly, I have a bone to pick with those who focus upon the goddess or goddesses in general exclusively. This idea of denying the masculine energy, influence in your spirituality. I think it goes against the spirit of paganism. I think it definitely goes against the spirit of witchcraft and magic more generally. And I think it's just flat out unhealthy. I think it leads a person into the same errors of thinking and mindset as what monotheistic religions who picture their God as being exclusively masculine fall into. And that's the beautiful thing about paganism and witchcraft. There is a greater balance between the masculine and feminine. It's much more organic, it's much more natural. It's something you aren't constantly having to fight and fuss about. It's just allowing people to experience the fullness of their own natures and then working in cooperation with their opposite, whether it's in a marriage or in a group project at work or in school or what other avenue you happen to be in. It is about finding that natural equilibrium and realizing it's not broken. We don't need to fix it. We just need to experience it. But back to the just the general idea about selling chants and prayers. If you haven't found any that appeal to you, and you may not. I guess someone's written words that's coming from their heart and what's in their heart. It may not necessarily be where your own is at. So consider writing your own. And especially if you're practicing on your own and no one's going to hear you, um, don't censor yourself. Don't tell yourself, oh, that's just beyond my abilities. Maybe you aren't the greatest writer in the world. That's okay. If you are speaking from your heart, if you are making the effort, that is going to count in your favor as far as the gods are concerned, because at the very least, you are trying. And the fact that you are willing to try and that you're going outside of your comfort zone to do so for the purpose of honor and worship and really acknowledging the occasion of Samhain for what it is, that means more than someone who's just naturally good at this, who just kind of threw it together but didn't really invest the heart into it. And I think that's what makes the difference between a lot of successful versus unsuccessful ritual. Have you put your whole heart into it? So don't be bashful. And again, if you're practicing on your own, there's no reason not to at least try, because no one else is going to hear you. So no one else is going to be giving you the side eye. So you don't have to worry about that. Then for our journal prompt today, I found this picture of it's a kind of a modern rendition of Hades, and he's got Cerberus, his nice doggy with the three heads. I think this is another reason why people occasionally go a little bit soft on Hades, just because he's a man who has his puppy who has who named him Spot of all mundane things, and appears to be just ridiculously in love with his wife. That has a lot of appeal to a lot of people, just someone who's in that mode. But let's think about him in his more official capacity. What do you think it's actually like to preside over the dead, to have that kind of responsibility? One of the ways we can try to improve our understanding of various gods and goddesses is by thinking about what is essentially their job, what is their role in the grand scheme of things, and just try to imagine what that would be like. And of course, we can't do it fully. We're human. We're not deities. But I think there's a lot to be gained from at least trying to imagine ourselves in that position, because it gives us a context. So we're trying to look at it from their perspective, and sometimes that does help us understand things just a little bit better. So, on that note, that is what I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And we got through this with only, one little time where I had to clear my throat. So I think that nasty old cold that was causing me to cough and offend everyone's ears, I think it is actually gone. So yay, hooray. And again, thank you for everyone who's been expressing their support and their good wishes throughout all of this rather unsightly and, well, I suppose, unpleasant to the ear little territory we've trod over the past couple of weeks. Thank you. I appreciate you. I will see you guys in the next